The taste that made people forget. In the heart of the Emerald Hills of Mtondo, a village nestled between whispering forests and ancient red clay roads, stories didn't just live, they grew. Just like the cassava in the fields and the baobab trees that dotted the landscape, tales in Mtondo were rooted deep and branched wide. The villagers were proud of their land, for it was said the soil remembered every footstep, every seed, every secret buried in its belly. And if the soil remembered, so did the people. Or at least, they used to. Everything changed when Mama Adiko opened her food stall. She wasn't new in the village. In fact, many remembered her from her younger days, a shy woman with a soft laugh and a husband who sang lullabies louder than a rooster at dawn. But after her husband passed, and her son fell ill, she disappeared for a while. When she returned, it was with a quiet smile, a weathered wooden cart, and a single cast iron pot. No one paid much attention at first. Food stalls were everywhere, grilled maize here, roasted plantains there, jollof rice that could start wars over recipes. But when Mama Adiko started serving what she called memory stew, something strange happened. The first man who tried it, old Kabo, the retired hunter who limped from a lion bite, walked away smiling, his limp gone, his eyes light. When asked about his injury, he simply blinked and said, "Lion." "What lion?" Within a week, a line stretched down the market path. People laughed, danced, hugged strangers. Pain disappeared. Worries vanished. Regrets gone. It was as if her stew boiled more than yam and spices, it simmered away sorrow. But it didn't take long for some to notice what else it was boiling away. In a corner of the village, under the long arms of an old mango tree, lived Deka. She was the type of girl who didn't speak much, but when she did, even birds paused to listen. At 15, she was already taller than her mother, with eyes that seemed older than time. She helped her mother with laundry, read every scroll old Koi the herbalist let her borrow, and scribbled thoughts in a frayed notebook she kept close to her chest. But Deka had a secret. One she didn't write down. Her brother, Teo, had gone missing. 2 months ago, he stood in that very line outside Mama Adiko's stall. Joking. Laughing. The next morning, he was gone. No note. No goodbye. His bed untouched, as if he had melted into the night. At first, the village searched. But after a week, no one even mentioned his name. Even her mother forgot. When Deka asked, she just blinked like Kabo did, then said, "Teo. You mean the boy from the next compound?" and went back to washing. That was the day Deka stopped talking to people. And started watching. She sat under the mango tree every morning, pretending to read, but her eyes were locked on Mama Adiko's stall. There was something off. The steam from her pot didn't rise, it twirled. It spun like it was dancing, curling around people's heads before fading. People often stared blankly into their bowls, smiling like they'd just remembered a happy dream, or forgotten a nightmare. Once, she watched a woman burst into tears halfway through the stew, then burst into laughter the next spoonful. It made no sense. And Mama Adiko herself. Always smiling. Always humming a tune no one else knew. Her eyes were kind, but a little too kind, like a mother who's hiding the last piece of cake behind her back. Something was brewing in that pot beside spices. Then came the moment Deka couldn't ignore. A little boy named Chimezi tripped and scraped his knee near the stall. Deka rushed over to help, but before she could, Mama Adiko knelt beside him. She whispered something in his ear, spooned a bit of stew into his mouth, then Chimezi stood up, wiped his knee, still bleeding, and said, "I didn't fall." Even more chilling. His cut was gone by the next morning. That night, Deka sat with her notebook, but she didn't write. Instead, she lit a small candle and placed her brother's favorite shirt beside it. She whispered into the flame. "Where are you, Teo? What did you eat?" The candle flickered. A breeze swept through her room even though the window was shut. And just before it went out, she heard a faint hiss, not like a snake, but like something boiling. She clenched her fist. It wasn't just that people were forgetting pain. They were forgetting truth. Family. Themselves. And if no one else would find out what was in that pot, she would. The spice that shouldn't be named. The next morning, Decca walked straight past the market, ignoring the smells of roasted groundnuts and sizzling plantain, and took the narrow path behind the shrine of the three drummers. Few dared to go that way, not because it was haunted, but because of who lived at the end of it. Old Koi, the herbalist. He was ancient. Probably drank palm wine with Moses, ancient. His beard reached his chest and smelled faintly of bitter leaves, and he always wore a faded wrapper with patterns that no one else recognized. Children said he talked to trees. Adults said he talked to spirits. And Old Koi. He just said, "I talk to anyone who actually listens." When Decca knocked, the old man didn't even turn. He was hunched over a clay pot, stirring something that hissed like it had feelings. "You've come about the stew," he said flatly. Decca froze. How did you know?" He grinned without showing teeth. "When people eat to forget, someone must remember." He motioned for her to sit. His hut was dark but warm, lined with herbs, bottles, charms, and things that looked suspiciously like shrunken heads, though she didn't ask, best not to. "You've seen it, haven't you?" he said, the people smiling without knowing why. The ones forgetting more than they should. "That stew is no ordinary recipe." He walked to a shelf, pulled down a dusty scroll wrapped in bark, and unrolled it with shaking hands. "There is a secret society. Old. Older than even me," he said with a chuckle. "They are called the Midnight Cooks. Whisper their name only under full moons, and only when your door is locked from the inside." Decca raised an eyebrow. "Midnight Cooks. That sounds like a really creepy cookbook club." Old Koi didn't laugh. "They cook with silence. They flavor with memory. They serve to control." He pointed to a crude drawing on the scroll. A woman stirring a pot. Around her, ghost-like faces floated, crying. "They use a spice called ibin," he whispered, almost like the word hurt his tongue. "It is not grown. It is harvested, from the tears of forgotten ancestors." "Tears?" Decca echoed. "When someone is forgotten by everyone they once loved, their spirit wanders. Lonely. Lost. If enough pain builds, their tears become ibin. Powerful. Dangerous. Sprinkle it into food, and whoever eats it will forget. But not by accident, by design." Decca's blood ran cold. She clutched her notebook tighter. "You're saying Mama Adiku is using this, ancestor spice?" Old Koi nodded slowly. "Or worst, she's making it." Over the next week, Decca became Tondo's most talented ninja. She woke before the rooster and slipped through shadows like smoke. Her eyes were on Mama Adiku, every move, every stir, every strange delivery. She noticed something odd. Every 2 days, just after sundown, Adiku would close shop early, lock the pot, and disappear. Where she went, no one knew. But Decca had a plan. On the 7th night, she waited behind the butcher store, wrapped in a faded cloth and armed with nothing but her notebook, courage, and a slingshot, because, why not? She followed silently as Mama Adeku walked through the market, down a twisting path that led to the edge of the forest. The moon was full, casting silver fingers across the ground. Adeku didn't walk like a tired woman. She moved with purpose. Like someone meeting a deadline with a spirit. Then came the singing. Soft at first. Low. In a tongue Decca didn't recognize. It wasn't Yoruba. It wasn't Igbo. It was older. Like the trees themselves were humming along. Adiko reached a clearing surrounded by kola trees and set her pot down in the middle. She drew a symbol in ash around it, 4 rings with a snake coiled at the center. She opened the pot, releasing a swirl of greenish steam that floated, then snapped down like it had found gravity again. From her wrapper, she pulled a small calabash and poured something dark and thick inside. Then, from the bushes behind her, a snake slithered out. Not an ordinary one. Its scales shimmered with red and gold, like it had been forged in fire. It moved to the pot, hissed once, then crawled in. No fight. No struggle. The pot trembled, and the snake dissolved like sugar in tea. Deka gasped. Too loud. She clapped her hand over her mouth. But it was too late. Mama Adiko's head snapped around. Her eyes met Deka's through the trees. They weren't scared. They weren't angry. They were sad. Then, a rustle behind Deka. She turned, heart thumping. Someone else was there. Watching her. The curse of the forgotten ones. Deka froze. The leaves behind her rustled again. Out stepped Kula, Mama Adiko's silent helper. He had always been there, blending into the background of the food stall, collecting bowls, wiping tables, never saying a word. The village barely noticed him. He was just there, like a shadow that had a job. But tonight, in the moonlit forest, he looked like more than just a helper. His skin shimmered faintly, as if dusted in ashes. His eyes, pale and wide, locked onto Deka's like twin lanterns in the dark. She braced herself, ready to run. Or fight. Or both. But Kula didn't raise a hand. He didn't shout, he couldn't. He simply stepped closer, eyes filled not with anger, but warning. With one hand, he touched his lips. Then pointed to her. Then to the sky. Deka understood, be silent. Stay hidden. The spirits are watching. Kula then turned and walked toward Mama Adiko, who hadn't moved. Without a word, surprise, he knelt and began helping her pack the pot. Deka took her chance. She ran. Her feet hit the red earth like thunder. She didn't stop until she reached the twisted path that led back to old Koi's hut. She banged on the door, panting, half sobbing, half choking on words. I saw her, I saw the snake, it melted, and the steam, Kula was there, and there was singing, she saw me, she knew I was watching. Old Koi opened the door calmly, already holding a bowl of kola nut tea. I told you not to go alone. Deka stared at him. Why didn't you tell me about the snakes? He sighed and sat down. Because you wouldn't have believed me until you saw it. Now you're ready to hear the rest. He motioned for her to sit. Deka, still shaking, dropped to the stool. The stew, he began slowly, feeds on spirits. Spirits. Not the kind that haunt. The kind that ache. The ones who were forgotten. Loved once, cherished, then erased by time. When people forget someone completely, their name, their face, their story, their soul becomes trapped in the realm between. He lifted a wooden carving from the shelf, a figure with no face. They become memory spirits. They drift, crying, whispering, begging to be remembered. And if too many of them gather, the veil between the living and the forgotten grows thin. Deka's heart pounded. And Mama Adiko's 2 feet on them? Koi nodded. That's why people forget. The stew steals memory. Not just pain. Whole pieces of people. And with each meal, more spirits are trapped, weeping. And when the pot is full. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Deka swallowed hard. Why would she do this? She was kind. She helped people. She made a bargain, Koi said. He unrolled another scroll, this one older, brittle. A tale written in black ash. Years ago, Her son fell ill. Beyond help. She cried to the gods. No answer. Then, one night, someone came. Not a god. Something else. It offered her a choice, her son's life, in exchange for the legacy of the keeper's pot. She accepted. And since then, she's kept the pot alive. Cooked with a bean. Let people forget their pain. In return, her son lives. But only as long as the pot is fed. Deca's mind spun. So, she's trapped too. In her own way. But choice or no choice, she crossed the line. And now, the forgotten are gathering. The next morning, Deca didn't hide. She walked straight into the market. The stall was already packed, as usual. Laughter. Joy. Spoons scraping bowls. No one noticed her. She climbed onto a bench and shouted, "My brother is gone." Teo. Don't you remember Teo? Nothing. Just chewing. Blank stares. Even her mother, scrubbing cassava a few stalls down, looked up in mild confusion and asked, "Teo. You mean the boy who used to play the drum near the stream?" "I think he moved away." Deca's heart dropped. "Mama. I'm talking about your son." Her mother blinked. "I have only one child, Deca. Are you feeling alright?" That was it. They still had one. But only for now. That night, Deca sat under the mango tree again, staring at the sky. She whispered to the wind. "Even if everyone forgets, Teo, I remember. I always will." And somewhere, in the realm between, a flicker of warmth passed through a faceless spirit. Just for a moment. Then vanished. The day the pot broke. The village of Ntondo woke up as usual, some kissing the red clay rooftops, goats arguing in the distance, and the scent of Mama Adeku stew dancing on the morning breeze like a hypnotic lullaby. But this morning, something else drifted on that breeze too, intent. Deca had barely slept. The plan had to be perfect. If she got caught, she'd be forgotten like the rest, just another name erased by a single sip. She waited until dawn, when Mama Adeku left briefly for the river, as she did every Thursday. Kula was busy prepping the tables. Quiet. Watchful. But not watching her. This was her moment. Wrapped in her old shawl, she slipped around the back of the stall like a shadow and pulled out the precious item from inside her satchel, a single, flat green leaf, shaped like an open palm. The leaf of recall. Old Koi had only one. It grew from a tree that bloomed only once every 100 forgotten names. If this leaf touches the pot, he had warned, the memories it consumed will rise like smoke. And when smoke rises, fire usually follows. Deca pushed aside the cloth cover of the massive pot. The stew inside bubbled calmly, smelling of time and betrayal. She crumbled the leaf into fine dust and sprinkled it into the pot like salt over a wound. Then she stepped away, and waited. By midday, the line outside Mama Adeku's stall was longer than ever. People laughed, clapped, patted each other on the back. No one knew they were one spoonful away from remembering everything they'd ever tried to forget. The first bowl was served. Then the second. Then 10. At first, nothing happened. Then came the tears. A young woman suddenly dropped her bowl and sobbed, "I never got to say goodbye to my mother." An old man gasped, "Where's my brother? We fought before he left, I never made it right." A child cried out, "I had a twin. I had a twin." The air changed. The laughter stopped. Then, from the center of the stall, the pot began to tremble. It rattled like thunder. Steam shot up in a violent hiss. The pot glowed red hot, then deep blue, then black. The earth around it cracked. And then, it burst open. From the chasm of its belly, a great, ghostly snake rose, towering and transparent, its eyes hollow, its body wrapped in echoes. It hissed names. Names that hadn't been spoken in years. Obina. Oma. Teo. Efioma. Mosi. Each name landed like a hammer in the hearts of the villagers. They clutched their heads. Some screamed. Some fell to their knees. The snake circled overhead, coiling around the market square like a curse finally finding its mark. Mama Adiku fell to her knees, weeping. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she cried. I only wanted my son to live. I didn't know. I didn't know it would keep feeding. Kula stood beside her, still silent, but his face was wet with tears. The villagers turned on her, yelling, shouting questions, heartbreaks, rage. But Deka raised her hand. She didn't do it for power. She did it for love. But love that forgets others is not love, it's hunger. The town elder, Chief Badoru, pushed through the crowd. A tall, serious man who smelled like pepper and justice. He glared at the pot, then at the spirit snake above. This pot must be destroyed, he declared. The villagers roared in agreement. But Old Koi, who had arrived unnoticed, as always, stepped forward. You cannot just break the pot, he said. It is alive. It remembers. And like any memory, it must be let go, not shattered. Then how? Asked the chief. Old Koi looked at Deka. She must ask it. Deka approached the pot. It was no longer bubbling. Just breathing, slow, labored, like a tired beast. She placed her hands on its sides. It was warm, and beneath the warmth, it shivered. She closed her eyes and whispered. You have held too many memories. You have eaten too many names. Let them go. Let them rest. And let us remember. For a moment, nothing. Then, the pot cracked. Once. Twice. With a sound like thunder in a library, it split in two, and the spirit snake let out one final cry before bursting into thousands of golden lights that rained over the village like fireflies. Every villager stared skyward, their faces wet with tears, but this time, not from forgetting. From remembering. Mama Adiku stood, trembling. Her face was aged by sorrow. I will leave Ntondo, she said quietly. No, said Deka. You will stay. You will help us remember. Help us tell the stories. Every single one. Adiku nodded. Then let the stories begin with this one. The choice of the flame. That night, long after the last ember died and the last villager went home cradling a returned memory, Deka couldn't sleep. The village was quiet, but the silence wasn't peace. It was expectation. She lay beneath the mango tree, notebook on her chest, staring up at a sky too full of stars, as if they were watching her. Then she felt it. A heat. A pulse. A gentle tug at her spirit, like someone whispering her name without sound. She sat up. In the center of the village, where the broken pot still sat in halves like a split moon, a single blue flame danced. She stepped toward it. The moment her foot touched the cracked earth, the world shifted. Milky Way, the spirit realm. Deka blinked. She was no longer in Ntondo. The air was thick with memories, visible like threads of smoke curling through the sky. The trees whispered names. The ground shimmered with footsteps from centuries past. Ahead stood the pot, whole once again, but not made of clay. It was formed of pure memory, rippling with stories, faces, laughter, and tears. The ancestral spirits surrounded her. They wore no faces, only glowing outlines, each pulsing with forgotten names. A deep voice echoed, not from one spirit, but all of them. Why should we trust again? Why should we let go? Deka stepped forward. I've seen what forgetting does, she said. It hurts. It erases. But remembering can heal. It can honor. It can keep you alive. The spirits is like wind through dry leaves. They always forget. Even now. You are only one girl. Decca held up her notebook. Then let me be your bearer. Let me carry your stories. Not in clay, not in stew, but in words. I will remember you. I will share you. From the shadows emerged her brother, Theo. His form was flickering, his eyes wide with hope and fear. He reached out. If you speak for us, he whispered, we won't fade. We'll live in the telling. The pot paused. Then cracked. Not with pain, but with release. A wind surged through the spirit realm, lifting the memories like birds taking flight. The pot shattered into golden light that rose and scattered into the sky. The spirits bowed. So be it. You are the keeper of the flame. Fire back in Tondo. Decca awoke by the mango tree, her notebook still on her chest, but now glowing faintly with warmth. Mama Adiko was gone. Not vanished. Not erased. Just gone. Some said she walked into the forest and never returned. Others said she became a spirit herself, cooking for the ancestors. Kula remained. He still didn't speak. But he now helped Decca, setting up a small stall in the market. But this stall didn't serve stew. It served stories. Teacup without handle the story stand. Children gathered there every day, sitting cross-legged on mats as Decca read aloud. Every tale began the same way. This is a story of someone who was once forgotten, and is now remembered. And with each story told, the village grew warmer, wiser, and more whole. People no longer feared their past. They honored them. Celebrated them. Cooked dishes with names and stories behind every spice. Decca's stall became the heartbeat of Ntondo. Not because it served food, but because it fed souls. Dear lamp end of the tale, but never the story.